Hey guys, this is Mike from Elder Auto Guitars, and today I want to talk to you about how Ground Zero Ampworks saved my 1970 Plexi. Let's go. Okay, so as you can hear, this amp sounds awesome now, and I want to thank Jeremy from Ground Zero Ampworks for helping me out with this. He saw me post about this on a forum, and I actually had posted the amp for sale, and he basically said like, hey, I can tell your amp has some values in it that could be changed. I can tell it doesn't have a bright cap. I can tell the negative feedback hasn't been adjusted. It might not even be biased correctly. Like, why don't you, swing by and I'll help you out with it. And I said, cool. So I actually brought two amps. I brought this 70 Super Lead, which is the one you're hearing now, and also a 50 watt bass, 72 bass up here as well. And we adjusted a bunch of the values in this amp. Now I want to be clear, we didn't hot rod it, right? This is not like, we didn't add any gain. There's no holes drilled. All this stuff is completely reversible if you wanted to reverse it. In fact, this one probably has been changed many times in its life. This one was a bit of a museum piece, but this one had been, had stuff altered in it over the years, right? And basically what we did was a couple of things. So the biggest difference you're hearing is a bright cap. So Jeremy actually put this on a push-pull, so I can demonstrate this for you. So I currently have the amp jumped. I'm actually going to unjump it just so you can check it out. So this is just the bright channel right now, right? And now here it is before the mod. So definitely pretty different, right? As you can hear, the bright cap brought out a lot of, brightness, right? A lot of treble, it gives it more gain, more cut. Now what you're hearing there when I pulled it out is not entirely the stock sound, and I want to be clear about that because there were other things that we changed in the amp in addition to this bright cap. The bright cap is probably just the single biggest thing that we did. Other things that we did was we adjusted the negative feedback. So I believe it was on the 8 ohm tap and we moved it to the 4 ohm tap. I think that's correct. Jeremy can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I think that's right though. We added the Van Halen fat cap, which you can hear in that Pete Thorne, Dave Friedman video. So we added that. That's actually something I didn't think I would want. I actually by listening to the demos, I actually preferred the non-fat cap sound, but in this amp, I preferred the fat cap. So we put it in. I believe he also put some other resistor in that just made it a little bit brighter and gave it a little more gain too. I'm not sure exactly what that was. Jeremy could comment. And then the other thing that we did was rebiased and retubed it. So it currently has 6 CA7 tubes in it instead of EL34s. And these are the new Electro Harmonics 6 CA7s that are properly made to match the old school 6 CA7s that are basically designed more like a 6L6. Dave Friedman actually said that he thought these tubes sounded really cool, and I agree. I had never heard them before, but I think they do sound very cool. It's kind of like a mix of an EL34 and a 6L6, maybe like a 50-50 or like a 70-30, 70% EL34 and 30% 6L6, which in this amp I feel like works very, very, very well. So that's really how this thing came back to life. And I told Jeremy, now this amp has really moved from, hey, I'm going to sell this status to I'm never going to sell this status. So my advice to you is, if you have an old Plexi and you don't like the sound of it, or it doesn't sound the way it sounds on records, or you hear, a Van Halen or a Foo Fighters song or whatever, right, that you say like, man, I really wish my Plexi sounded like that, or old Led Zeppelin or something, right, or whatever, I would say, send it to Jeremy, message Jeremy at Ground Zero Ampworks, and he can probably help you out with getting the amps sorted. Like I said, we didn't mod it, we didn't hot rod it, there's no additional gain. This is all stock plexi. And I'll be honest, it kind of blows me away. I kind of, I own a Mark II C Plus. It's currently with Mike B being fixed. It should be back any day now. But, it always blew me away with that amp, how much gain that amp had on tap for 1983, right? It was built in 1983, and I thought, man, this amp had so much gain on it, it's unreal. This amp was made in 1970, and I'm like, damn, this amp has a lot of gain. It's unreal, but you've got to get it with the right component values, right? But the thing is, back in the day, you might be wondering, like, hey, Mike, why would this amp have bad component values, or why would the component values have been changed or something? And the answer is it could be a couple things, right? So one, the amp could have been, messed with over its 50-plus year life, right? It could have just been messed with by various techs or whatever. Second thing that's probably more likely is that back in the day when Marshall made amps, they just really didn't take into account, which components really sounded the best. They just sort of used whatever they had. So it's like, hey, this value is normally 100K. Oh, today we're out of 100K, we're going to use 150, right? And that's just like what they did, right? So it's possible that this, may have had some of those different components just like from the factory because that's what they had that day. But the bright cap was probably cut at some point. It was a popular mod, I believe, in like the 70s or 80s or something, to cut the bright caps. And a lot of people now say it sort of neuters the amp, and I have to agree. I mean, again, here's the sound with no bright cap. And then here it is with the bright cap. Super cool. One of my favorite things, though, to do, and I'll leave you with this, is just to variac it. Jeremy turned me on to this really cool variac that I can use to kind of as like a master bus for all of this stuff, which is pretty sweet. And I'm going to variac this bad boy down. It's currently at 117 because that's what we bias the tubes at. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it down, and let's bring it down to like 100 or so. And you're going to hear, I'm going to increase the volume just a little bit to make up for a little bit of the sag. And this is Van Halen, man. I mean, you're going to hear it. I'm going to turn my tone pot to 10. I'm going to turn the volume to 10. We're in the bright channel only. The gain isn't even all the way up. The gain is at 6. So just for your perspective, right? And here's what we get, man. Pretty wild, right? So it sounds absolutely insane now. And like I said, I mean, that's with the gain at 6. I mean, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll turn it up even more. I'm not going to completely dime it, but let's go up to 8. Now what this is going to do is reduce the brightness of the bright cap. The influence of the bright cap will be less. So it might be a little darker, but let's just let this thing rip, man. righteous, right? You can't go wrong with that, right? It's just a classic sound. So if you're wondering, hey, why doesn't my Plexi sound awesome? Why doesn't it sound like the records? Could it be better? Maybe it sounds good, but you just, think to yourself, I wonder if it could be better. I would really give Jeremy a call because he really helped me out. And check out his amp company, Ground Zero Ampworks. It's awesome. If you're wondering about the bass, I'm going to do a separate video of the bass. It's a little bit different than this one, but it also sounds totally awesome. And this amp has moved for me from, hey, I'm going to sell it to, hey, I'm never going to sell it, just with a couple of hours of time and a couple $100 worth of work. So I would really recommend checking them out. All right. Thanks, everybody. Peace.